welcome you all to the Carlisle Council on Aging's Community Forum. It's March 20th, 2019, and we're going to review the many and varied and rich activities provided by the Council on Aging for seniors in our town, covering health issues, senior welfare, social life, and cultural programs. And I know I'm beginning to feel enthused about getting out and about to enjoy the wealth of activities provided by the Council on Aging. Look for the Council on Aging newsletter online or in the mail for news of what is available and when it's happening, and look for Angela's news you can use in your email inbox. Today we've got a lot of to cover, and so I'll go right ahead and introduce our panel, starting with Nancy Jacine from the Friends of the CCOA, Holly Mansfield, the Carlisle Recreation Director, Angela Smith, the dynamic Angela Smith, who is in charge of all of the Council on Aging's outreach and programs, David Klein, who keeps it all going together, the Director of the Council on Aging, and our special guest today, Judge William Barrett of the Superior Court of Massachusetts, and finally, Linda Fantasia from the Carlisle Board of Health. So let's get started with David Klein, Director of the Council on Aging.
Thanks so much, Frank. Really appreciate it, and it's great to have you as a host. Very quickly, everyone. I'm not sure when this is going to be broadcast, but for anybody who isn't aware of it yet, because we haven't maybe done as much publicizing as we could have, but that will change. Carlisle received a grant. Actually, Linda was the principal, as a Board of Health, the principal applicant for a health grant from an organization called Chenal 15, Community Health Network Area 15, which is funded through Leahy Clinic and Winchester Hospital. From that grant, we're working on 3 projects. One is a community center feasibility study. The other is a community health nurse. I think Linda will be talking about that momentarily, and one of the projects involved with that. But the third thing, and this is what I just want to get to quickly, is a transportation initiative to just broaden the transportation alternatives in town. And as many people know, there actually aren't a lot of transportation alternatives. So we're going to be using this money to discount rides on the ride-sharing firm Lyft. And Lyft is like Uber. Lyft and Uber are the 2 major ride-sharing firms. There are a few others, but Lyft is somewhat, or Uber, but in this case Lyft, who we're working with, are somewhat like a taxi company, but in more on-demand, 24 hours a day, and approximately what we're told about 30% cheaper than a typical taxi. So on top of that, if you have the Lyft app, which we're going to be doing some training on. For those who aren't aware of how to put an app on your phone, if you have the app, then you can get a $10 discount on rides. So to get to Concord, it's approximately a $12 ride, $12 to $15 ride, depending on where you're going. The first you pay the first $2, and we pay the next $10 of the ride. So a $12 ride would only cost you $2. If it was a $15 ride, it would cost you $5. But for a lot of people to get from Carlisle Center to Concord Center or to Westford to go shopping at Market Basket, it's a $2 ride. And we're offering that 4 times a month for those who apply for the discount. And when I say apply, all you do need to do is register. Tell us that you're interested. Give us your phone number associated with your Lyft account. We send that information to Lyft, and they apply the discount, the $10 discount, automatically onto your phone. So you don't even have to do anything. You just go in, put the destination, and the $10 will be taken off of the fare.
Sounds like a good deal.
Well, you do have to sign up for Lyft, and that's the thing actually that we keep forgetting to tell people. You can't get the discount unless you have a Lyft account, because when Lyft goes to apply the discount, there has to be an account to apply it to.
And that is LYFT.
That is LYFT, yeah. And these are one-way trips. Right now, we're offering them at 4 per month. So, and it's per person. So if you're a couple, you can each have it. So it's 4 per person. The 4 rides expire at the end of the month, so you can't accumulate them or hoard them. But at the next month, you will have another 4 rides, and you don't have to apply or register for it again. It will happen automatically. And we're going to be having this until the grant money runs out.
And you say it's a one-way?
It's a one-way.
So you have to then call Lyft, say you're
back.
in Concord,
to
get back. You have to
true.
call them again.
But let's say there are times when a one-way trip sometimes happens because, you know, you're already somewhere, somebody's dropped you off and you just need a ride home. Or let's say you're going to a destination like the airport. And so all of a sudden, a $45 Lyft ride to the airport is now $35. The only restriction is a 55-mile radius. It really can't hurt, because if you register for it and you don't use it, no harm, no foul. But if you want it, and one of the reasons that we think this is an important thing, and I'm going to stop because we've got so many things to talk about, is people may be nervous about using it, but the point is use it locally and get comfortable with it. And so if you ever need it and you have no other alternatives, then you have an alternative.
And if you're going with a friend or 2 friends or 3 friends, it's the same price.
Well, that's right, because the typical Lyft car will hold up to 4 people. So it's like a taxi in that sense. If you need a bigger vehicle, they have bigger vehicles, but they do cost more.
Okay.
And that's all I have for the moment, Frank.
Okay.
So we think we have a big agenda to get to.
So now we're going to move on to Linda Fantasia, who I think is going to talk to us about ticks.
Absolutely.
And it's spring and the ticks are coming out, right?
I actually thought you might introduce it that way. I don't want to mislead people into thinking that ticks aren't there year-round. They are. But spring definitely is the time when we get the most calls and questions about ticks. And so I brought a prop. This little guy is the Borrelia burgdorferi. He looks very innocent, but this is actually the Lyme disease bacteria that gets into your blood system that causes Lyme disease. And I want to announce that the Board of Health, and we have a Lyme disease subcommittee, and we're sponsoring an educational event on April 11th at the Union Hall at FRS at 7:30. That's a Thursday night, April 11th. And we have 2 presenters, one from the Mass Department of Public Health, who will talk about tick-borne disease and people. And we have a local veterinarian, Charles Bradley from Domino Hospital, who will talk about new and emerging tick and mosquito disease in pets. So it should be a very interesting night. I encourage people to come. We will also have information. Carlisle is still participating in a tick testing program where Carlisle residents can submit ticks that they find on themselves and to the laboratory out at UMass in Amherst. And they will test the tick and get the results back to you. And it's at a discounted price, so if people are interested in accessing that, check the Board of Health website, and all the information on how to register, how to send the tick, and so forth is on the website. So again, yes, it's spring, and we're all looking forward to it, but unfortunately, ticks come with spring, as you said. Thank you.
And of course, we tend to get out and about more, so we're...
And that's true. They've wintered over, as we have wintered over, and now we're all looking to enjoy the outside.
Thank you, Linda.
Linda, is our public health nurse involved in that initiative that you're discussing right there?
We do have a public health, as David briefly mentioned, public health nurse for a pilot program, and her name is Tricia McGeehan. And yes, she will also be there at the event. And I do want to encourage any resident that has a medical question about medications or illnesses. We have this public health nurse available. All they need to do to access Tricia is contact either Angela or myself at the health department, and we would put them in touch with the nurse. Thank you for reminding me.
Sure.
Thanks, Linda. Well, now it's my great pleasure to introduce our distinguished neighbor from Concord, the Honorable C. William Barrett. Judge Barrett was nominated by Governor Baker for appointment to the Superior Court of the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in December of 2016. He's a former assistant district attorney in Middlesex County. Later, he was a partner of Esdale Barrett, Jacobs and Moan, and there he specialized in complex disputes involving product liability claims, construction litigation, medical malpractice, defamation, premises liability, and motor vehicle accidents. Judge Barrett received his law degree from Boston University in 1988 and is an alumnus of Brown University, class of '83, where he was a scholar and an athlete, having been co-captain of both football and lacrosse, and was a star running back for Concord Carlisle High School way back. And so...
I want the record to be clear. My parents didn't pay any extra money for me to get into Brown, just so we're clear on it. It was all real.
Well, of course. In Concord, Judge Barrett served on various town committees, including as chair of the Zoning Board of Appeals, and is also a past president of the Massachusetts chapter of the American Board of Trial Attorneys. We're really pleased that he's been able to take the time to come to Carlisle and try to enlighten us about our judicial system. Let's start off by asking Judge Barrett, how does a judge become a judge?
Well, that's an easy question. It's a long question, but it's a long answer, but it's an easy question. Let me first thank you for the opportunity to be here. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm actually here as part of the Judicial Outreach Program that the Massachusetts Judiciary runs. Over the last couple of years, we've been doing it. And basically, every judge in Massachusetts is asked to do some sort of public speaking appearance. And it's just because of what you said. You said, we don't have a lot of experience in cases, and sometimes it's scary, and sometimes, we don't really know what to expect. The Judicial Outreach Program is basically, it's a chance to see that it's not a horrible process. The people involved are there to help you to as much as they can. And sort of to humanize the people that are involved in the court system. And most importantly, it's to show that the courts are part of a great system that we have in this country, and that is rule of law. And despite some of the things that we hear lately in the news, we are a country based on the rule of law and the principles of the Constitution. And so hopefully those principles are talked about a little bit in some of this judicial outreach program. I think the participation rate is about 95% of all the judges in Massachusetts do this, which is pretty amazing. I mean, there's 80 Superior Court justices right now, and I think at least double that for the district courts. So that's pretty amazing. So it's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to be part of that program. Whew. So your question was, how do you get to be a judge? It's not easy. And the process is something that I don't think I could ever do again. It was really long, arduous, nerve-wracking. You had to be patient and all the rest. And it really is not, part of that, who you know system. The first round is a blind application now to the Judicial Nominating Committee, and that means blind application. You fill out roughly 100-page application, which is it's not just a lot of questions. It's writing and all the rest. Very, very detailed. And you fill that out and you submit it to the Judicial Nominating Committee, and they all read it. It's a committee that's appointed by the governor, but they read the applications and they don't know who you are. And so they'll read the application and they'll say, okay, yes, he qualifies, or she qualifies, no. So you have to get through that first phase. And then the next phase is actually an interview with the Judicial Nominating Committee. And then the next and the next and the next. Essentially, I think it's roughly 8 stages that you have to go through in order to actually be a judge. And I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good thing. No longer can you really appoint a judge who really has no trial experience or no understanding of the law that they're about to sit on for the next how many years. I mean, don't forget, when you're appointed to be a judge in this Commonwealth, which I think is really important, you are a judge until you decide to retire, which is either sometime before 70, but it's mandatory retirement at 70.
Did you always want to be a judge?
I did. I started out in the district attorney's office, and there were a couple of judges that I saw when I was a district attorney, and I respected what they did. I respected how they went about things, and I said, you know what? He did it the right way, or she did it the right way, and you don't have to belittle people. You don't have to act like you're the only person in the room. I think you really have to do just the opposite. I think you have to treat people like humans. You have to show them that you care and that you understand what they're going through. Whether it's a defendant who's being charged with rape, or someone who says their neighbor's tree fell on their property, and they want them to get it off. I mean, it doesn't matter. You have to show some just common decency in the courtroom. And so those individuals that I saw at the time, I said, you know what? I can do that. That's something I do want to do. That's going to be one of my ultimate goals. And 30 years later, the opportunity arose. I wasn't sure I was going to make it. As a matter of fact, I was pretty sure I wasn't. But as luck would have it, and I think there is some luck because there's some timing. There were some openings when I applied. I don't think there's hardly any openings right now because they filled them all. But there were some openings when I applied, and I was lucky enough to get it.
That's very good to hear, because I think a lot of people assume that people become judges because they have political connections, and that's not true at all.
It's not in the initial part. I'm not going to kid you. If you're a personal friend of the governor, that's probably going to help. Because he's the one who has the ultimate yes or no on whether you become a judge. But you got to get through all the other levels first. And so having a political, ally in the process, that might help you at the very end. Yep. Ironically, I had political allies with the Patrick administration. But when I applied originally, I was under the Patrick administration. And I got all the way to the governor, and he just sent me, the office sent me a note saying, we're not going to consider your application any longer because we have agreed with the legislature not to appoint any more judges because of the fact that there's only 3 months left in his administration. And they said, but the Baker administration will take up your application and move forward one way or the other. Unfortunately, the Baker administration said, no, we're starting anew. Oh. So you have to go through the whole process again. No. So I actually did. But all my political contacts were with the Patrick administration, and I had none with the Baker administration. But it turns out,
speaks well of the system.
It also speaks well of the Governor Baker, because most of the people that I've been appointed with, my current new judges, they're terrific. They're terrific people. They're highly intelligent. I don't know how I got included in that group. But they're amazing people, and they're not political appointees. It's amazing, and I give credit to the governor, the governor's office, for being that way. I don't know if I ever voted Republican, and still, he's a Republican governor, and he appointed me, and I'm not alone in that process. Yep. He certainly has made me appreciate a leader who wants to do things the right way as opposed to the politically correct way, and that's nice.
Where do you work? One courthouse or?
It's a good question. In the Superior Court as opposed to the District Court, and I can explain the difference between the two if you'd like.
Yeah.
But in the Superior Court, we rotate every 3 months. So we go to a different session every 3 months. That session, so for example, I believe Woburn Superior Court, and that handles Middlesex County, most of Middlesex County for the most part, although Lowell has a Superior Court as well. But Woburn has roughly 10 sessions that are actively going now. And so there's a criminal session and a civil session, and different sessions have single justices in each session. Every 3 months, we rotate to a different session. So I'll rotate. I'm currently in a criminal session, and my rotation is about to end in that criminal session. I'm about to be moved to Lawrence Superior Court, where I will then begin another 3 months in a civil session. Obviously, the difference is I'll be hearing only civil cases, no criminal cases at all. And that's what judges do for the most part in the Superior Court. In the District Court, it's different. In the District Court, you really have a court that you're appointed to. For the most part, you stay in that court. Some of the newer judges rotate between district courts, but you were pretty much there in the District Court doing both civil and criminal.
Would you like to elaborate on the difference between district and superior?
Sure. So in the Massachusetts, we have trial courts. And trial courts are exactly what they sound like. They have trials in trial courts. And a trial it involves witnesses, it involves evidence, it involves that type of procedure, as opposed to an appellate court or the Supreme Judicial Court. Those don't involve trials. Anything in front of the appeals court or the Supreme Judicial Court, it's not a trial. It doesn't involve the evaluation of evidence, so to speak, from different witnesses. There's no new evidence ever in those particular bodies. The District Court and the Superior Court are courts where you have trials. So that's a trial court. You also have trials in probate court in front of probate justices. And sometimes you have those in the courts underneath them, juvenile court, housing court, land court. Less jury trials in the bottom three that I've said. But for the most part, you have jury trials in the District Court in Massachusetts and the Superior Court in Massachusetts.
And the difference
so the
between
difference
the
in the two is the following. It's just size of the case or severity of the case. Jurisdiction in the Superior Court, anything that's punished, any crime that can be punished for over 2.5 years in prison, that's a Superior Court case. Anything that's punishable for less than 2.5 years in prison, that's a District Court case. Anything on the civil end, it's a monetary dispute that's over $25,000, that's a Superior Court case. Anything less than that is a District Court case. So you decide you have a problem with your neighbor. It involves a tree that just fell on your lawn, and you want them to remove it, and the cost of removal is $10,000 to remove it. It's a negligence case. You want to file it in the District Court. That is a District Court case because it doesn't involve $25,000 or more. Take the scenario. You have a tree in your neighbor's lawn that you knew was rotted, and your neighbor knew it, and it fell on your house, and it caused $50,000 of damage to your house. That's a case in dispute over $25,000. You would bring that in the Superior Court. And it's really just a matter of going to the clerk's office, either in Concord District Court, that's the District Court, or going to the clerk's office in the Woburn Superior Court. You can file you can file the same claim in two different courts. Actually, you can only do one. But the jurisdictional level, again, is that monetary amount.
What is a magistrate's court?
Those are usually, magistrates are clerks. And some of them have the power to decide preliminarily in a criminal case, most of the time in a criminal case, whether there's been probable cause that a crime has occurred or not. So, for example, in the Concord District Court, and you really only have these magistrate hearings in district courts, the magistrate will hear an offense, for example, an assault and battery, but really it really was more of a teenage fight in a parking lot at a high school. So both the parties will come in, and the magistrate will hear the evidence from the police officer who's taken the evidence from a witness, and the magistrate might say, you know, I don't really have quite enough evidence. I don't have probable cause to find that either one of you committed a crime. Maybe both of you did or not, but you would have what we call a clerk magistrate hearing. A lot of times you have it on, typically you'll have clerk magistrate hearings on speeding issues. Clerk will initially hear that, and they can decide, no, there's it's a lower standard of proof for a civil speeding issue, but they can decide that the burden of proof they won't be able to meet that in the speeding issue, and they'll say, no, I'm not going to give them a ticket. You can go free, or they can say, nope, we're going to give you a ticket. You can appeal it to the district court judge, but move on. So clerk magistrates have a valuable function, but I'm not involved with them at all at my level.
Now, how much time do you actually spend in court presiding over a trial?
That's a good question. So it depends on whether you're in a civil session or a criminal session. The criminal sessions are extremely busy. You typically have, your trial in the morning, and depending upon what session you're in, that could go all afternoon as well. So most of your time in a criminal session is you're actually doing the trials that involve maybe picking the jury and things like that, and then taking evidence. In the civil session, mornings are for trials, afternoons are for motions involving future trials. So motions to dismiss, things like that. Those are all in the afternoon. So 50-50 in the civil session, almost 100% in the criminal session.
Are there any current issues in our court system that are particularly frequent at the moment?
Well, I don't know if there's any specific ones. The Criminal Reform Act was passed last year, and that's resulted in some changes, maybe a little bit in, the criminal system, the criminal court system. The changing of possession of marijuana charges from criminal to civil, that's resulted in a lot less criminal cases being brought for just those types of offense, and that's resulted in a little bit of a difference in incarceration rates and things like that, but not significant.
What about the opioid?
The opioid epidemic is real, and that's it's a horrible thing, and not necessarily in terms of, it doesn't necessarily make our prisons more crowded. It makes our young people die at a higher rate, and that's really serious. And so it's a sad thing to see, and I see it all the time. I see people who are just unable to help themselves because of the hold that horrible drug has over them. And it's not just limited, necessarily to opioids. I mean, drugs are drugs, and once someone's addicted, it's really difficult. So you have a lot of alternatives as a judge. One of them is rehabilitation. One of them's punishment. One of them's deterrence. And my style is mostly rehabilitation when it comes to a drug offense. So I'll sentence them to a rehabilitation program. Got to complete it before you get out, and I'll give them a long probation, which means they have to follow up programs with respect to rehabilitation, that type of thing. Putting someone in jail immediately for a drug offense is just going to postpone the inevitable, i.e. they're going to get back out and do it again.
You referred to this issue a little bit when you just spoke about marijuana, but is the system overloaded, or?
Yes, you can say yes. We don't have the overcrowding in the prisons that we used to, but, the United States makes up about 4.4% of the world's population. We incarcerate 20% of the world's incarcerated people. We have the highest incarceration rate of any country in the world. And you would say, oh, that can't be, Brazil and China. And no, we incarcerate at a much higher rate than all of those countries. Whether that's a good thing or a bad thing, that's another argument, and we need another an hour and a half for that. But that's significant. And so we do have busy prisons, and we do have overcrowded prisons at some point. I see the most overcrowding in our mental treatment facilities, in our facilities to treat, the drug addicted. Those places, there's just not enough room. There's not enough treatment centers. There's not enough doctors, and helpers to effectively treat those. So, there is a problem there. There is. Not to say there's not a problem everywhere, but those are areas of real concern.
Well, I think we've probably just touched the tip of the iceberg on this discussion.
I could be here another hour if you all want.
Good, yeah. Thank you
Well, we
so
do
much.
thank you,
All right.
Judge, and very informative.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Okay.
I
right.
had one quick question.
Sure.
That's that and maybe I missed it when you were saying this, but the rotating of the sessions at your level and it might seem obvious, but just to satisfy my own curiosity, is the rotating of the sessions more for the benefit of the judges having a broader view, or is there another?
I think that's a large part of it, and I think you don't. As a judge, it's for me. I enjoy changing the sessions because you don't always want to do one thing. Doing civil all the time is tough. Doing criminal all the time is tough. One involves a ton of writing, civil. The other involves a lot of time in courtrooms dealing with jurors and trial issues. So it's nice to have a little change. But that being said, it also changes the personnel in certain areas. So you don't, judge shop, so to speak. You don't file your claim, in a certain area and wait for a certain judge because it's predictable because he's going to be there for a year. So I think there's a little bit of that too.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Thank you again
Thank you.
so,
All right.
so much.
Happy to do it.
We love that.
And I think now David and Nancy are going to take it away.
Okay, sounds really good. Nance, did you have an update from the Friends?
This is hot off the presses right now. We have our guest speaker arranged for our annual meeting of the Friends of the Carlisle Council on Aging, and that is Alex Chen. And Alex Chen is a creative director at Google. So this will appeal to a broad range of people. And it's going to be June 9th, and from 3 to 5. It's a Sunday. And he will come, and he uses his background in music and coding and design for his work at Google. And he's going to be using interactive projects with us, and it will show us how to visualize music and create music. And he'll explore the underlying science and mathematics behind music. He has been covered in the New York Times, in BBC, in Wired magazine. His projects are in school systems all over the world, music programs. I spent a couple of hours this weekend just doing research on this man and watching a YouTube video of him, and it's just fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So we're very excited, and he is from Carlisle. He lives in Carlisle, so we're so fortunate to have somebody like that here. So that will be June 9th. That's the same weekend as the garden tour, so you can do a whole Carlisle weekend. See Alex Chen on Sunday and do the Carlisle garden tour on the previous days. So we will be sending out a notice about that. We also have coming up the last of the art series of Jane Blair. She's going to be talking on March 27th about Alexander Calder, who has a sort of whimsical and a fascinating approach to sculpture. He's, of course, the inventor of the mobile. And everybody who has been to one of Jane Blair's programs knows that they're very energetic, and she talks and simultaneously posts images of the work that she's talking about. So they're great. So that's 1:30 at St. Irene's on March 27th. Those art programs are co-sponsored by the Friends of the Gleason Public Library and the Friends of the Carlisle Council on Aging.
They're wonderful, and I've been to several of them.
Have you? Oh,
Yeah.
good. Oh, that's good. Well, I hope people take advantage of these things. We're here in the middle of the woods, but we have wonderful programs available. So there's also, there are two health programs coming up. On April 5th, Dr. Beverly Dolinsky will be talking about thinking positively and living longer and healthier. And she emphasizes the importance of resilience, feelings of resilience and social connectedness, and the motivation to maintain your physical health and your social health. So that she's a professor of psychology at Endicott College. So that should be a very interesting talk. That will be at the Gleason Public Library at 1:30 on April 5th. And then on April 17th, Dr. Dean Howard will be talking about, he's a board-certified orthopedic surgeon, and he's going to be talking about who should get knee and hip replacements, when they should get them, and what the procedure involves. And so that should be a very interesting talk. He is at the Orthopedic Affiliates Incorporated in Concord and Westford, and that's affiliated with Emerson Hospital. And that's going to be April 17th, also at the library, and also at 1:30. And finally, I want to thank the community who has continued year after year to be very generous with your donations to the Friends of the Carlisle Council on Aging. And we provide a grant every year to the Council on Aging to make it possible for them to offer services and activities and programs that otherwise might not be available. So we know there's no way we could do it without the community's generosity. So we thank you for that. And we do, again, hope you take advantage of the programs that we co-sponsor with the library. And
Nancy, I think we want to talk about the generous donor who's matching gifts to the Friends.
Oh, yes. Yes, we are at, right. And I believe it was $2,000. Is that correct? And we're trying to match that, and I think we've gotten about $1,050. So, yeah, if you can send in just even the smallest donations are helpful to
Because it will
match that grant.
double the donation.
Exactly. It's like doing twice as much. So, yes,
And
thank
he
you for
did
reminding me.
that because you were behind in donations for 2018, and you let people know that, and he came forward and said, let me see if I can help by matching it.
I want to give a plug for our friends group, because we compliment each other all the time, and also our recreation department with Holly, we all work together so well. But one of the things, and the friends groups from other towns, do likewise good work with their councils on aging and their seniors in their community. But oftentimes it's can be a laborious process for Council on Aging to come up with a program, go to the Friends group and say, hey, we want to do this. They deliberate and say, okay, yes or no. But in our case, our friends presciently 7-8 years ago decided, why don't you just tell us what you think you're going to need for the whole year, and we'll okay or not okay that. And I think that they're flexible enough so that if things change during the year, we can talk to them. But so they give us what amounts to a block grant at the beginning of the year, and then we use that block grant throughout the year, and it's just so much easier. I didn't have an experience with that until I came to Carlisle, but now I'm used to it. So if I wasn't in Carlisle, I think I'd be spoiled. I'm like, well, what do you mean I've got to spend all this time talking to you about this? And it's not that we don't discuss things during the year. We do. But they just make it so much easier for us generally to do what we do.
And when I run into a problem and there's no place to turn to get help, I know that, we have the grant and there's some flexibility in what we use it for. So there's money there for fuel assistance and for helping people that may have a specific need that, makes it possible.
And these are things which the town itself cannot fund or
Exactly.
doesn't have the money to do it.
The art series would not happen without the Friends. The health series wouldn't happen.
And we
so
helped
much.
to provide the fitness classes
Right.
and the
Subsidize
dietary,
the van
the
and
dietary
subsidize
clinics and
podiatry.
blood
Yeah,
pressure.
we have a small programming budget from the town, but pretty small, and this just totally turbocharges and leverages that. So But a lot of these things wouldn't happen otherwise.
And by the way, we are celebrating our 25th anniversary this year.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
People in
Congratulations.
1994 who put
And
this.
knowing many of the members of the board, past and present, they're a good group of people.
They are. We're very lucky. Well, I think we should move on and give Holly a minute to tell us what's going on with rec.
Yes, well, after you participate in all of these wonderful activities for yourself, there might be a few more activities for you in our brochure, our spring and summer brochure, and there will definitely be some things in here for your grandchildren. There's lots of things for them to participate in. But first, I'd like to talk about some trips that we are planning. We do have some trips going to Rhode Island on a lighthouse cruise. We have a trip to Foxwoods if anyone wants to try their luck. We also have a clam bake up in Maine that we're going to be offering, as well as a few other ones, Martha's Vineyard, a whale watch, the Big E in September. And we coordinate these trips with a lot of the surrounding towns.
What's the Big E?
The Big E is a big fair. It's a big...
I think it's like a state fair, isn't it?
It is. It's a state fair, very popular. It's a great day trip, just something to do on a weekend. And so all of that is in here towards the back of the book. The trips are here. And if there's any of those that interest you, you can certainly just give me a call. I can help to get you registered for that. And then we also have some of our favorite programs, the yoga program, which actually the Friends help to give us subsidize that program, so we're able to give a discount to seniors. And there's a few other programs that we do that with, watercolor and yoga, and what else do? We do a few more.
Well, we collaborate.
Zumba, a lot of classes.
And over the summer, we do a lot of intergenerational programs
We
together
do.
with the seniors and the rec department summer camp.
Yes, which brings me actually to summer fun. So our summer fun program is going to be beginning June 24th, and we had not had a lot of snow days, so we are able to start right on time this year. Last year we did lose a week of summer fun due to all the snow. So the summer fun program is for children ages 4 to probably 12, and we do arts and crafts and swimming and games and sports, and we do some intergenerational programs with Council on Aging. And it's just a great program for kids. We have some great counselors. It's always a favorite among the kids. And what we do need, though, for summer fun is anyone who is willing to donate some time for their pool. We do our swim lessons at private homes in their pools, and in past years, families have been very generous in donating a week out of the summer. We transport the kids from the school, and we bring them over to your pool. We just need a sheltered area and just an area where they can run in and use the restroom if they need to. But we would have our lifeguard there on duty, our swim instructor there, and our counselors would be there as well to assist with the swim lessons.
And you cover the insurance.
And the town, yes, you would be covered under the town's insurance. So if you have any time that you would like to donate your home pool for a week or two out of the summer, please give me a call. They are needed, and it really helps to make our program great.
So get one of those yellow booklets and plan your summer.
Yes, so everything's in here, and just a few more things, a few more new programs. I have a tea party that you can attend with your grandchildren, or if your own children want to bring your grandchildren. It's a parent-child tea party. It takes place right here at Town Hall. That takes place on May 4th. It's a nice Mother's Day gift. If anyone's looking for some creative ideas, and you bring home a piece of pottery as a little memento. So a really nice program. And we have our popular ones, our mystery walks. That's always a very popular program in the spring. And we did open up a new series of programs to help children get through some different things. Kids these days seem to have a lot of struggles. And we have a series of helping kids make friends and keep their friends, managing and understanding aggression that might exist in some children, and teaching children how to be a flexible thinker. Instead of always, some children can be very demanding. So if you're able to be a flexible thinker, you might come up with different ways how to get your point across to other children, to classmates, as well as to your parents or to your grandparents. So those are just a few things. It's all in here. And if you'd like to register or have any questions, please just give me a call right at the Recreation Department.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you, Holly.
You're welcome. Thank you.
So we have a whole bunch of things that you and I really have to kind of get through, and some of it are tangential to what Holly was talking about, but I'm going to jump in and you.
Yes, please do.
Yeah, so we've got a couple of trips coming up. First of all, two of them are what we used to call Joanne's Restaurant Reviews from Joanne Willens, but Joanne left us, we miss her, but we're still doing the restaurant reviews. So one is on Tuesday, April 9th, and that's a trip to Bamboo in Westford, and that's always a popular lunch donation. If you're interested, please call the COA van line at 978-371-6690. You'll probably end up talking with Debbie Farrell, and you can register for that. On these trips, the van leaves from Congregational Church at 11:15, and they return around 2 p.m. But it's a good time just having lunch with some friends or other people around town that maybe you don't know and that you will have an opportunity to know. Please call. It's about a week ahead of time. So for the trip on the 9th, please call by April 2nd. And the second one is Wednesday, May 8th. It's to Nancy's Airfield Cafe, a little bit further out, but I'm going to mention it just to plug it. And that one is in Stowe, and I have never been there, but I hear the food is good and that you get to kind of watch the planes go in and out.
Right.
So this is the one at the airport?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, it is. It's good. Yeah.
Yeah. So that is going to be May 8th, and I won't repeat the information because it's a little bit further out, but just so you know that we have that one on the docket. Speaking of Concord, if Judge Barrett were here, I'd mention the Concord Players Senior Dress Rehearsal of Secret Garden is occurring on Thursday, April 25th at 8 p.m. It's $5 at the door. You don't have to pre-register. So, go see the play, for $5. I'm sure it will be much appreciated. That's at 51 Walden Street at Concord. And again, you don't have to call us in advance. You can just go to the door. But it is on page 3 of the newsletter if people need references for this information. There's a play called $1 Million Quartet. I've never heard of that, but I gather Lillian Benedictus is leading it. She usually researches these plays. And this one's at the Greater Boston Stage Company, which used to be the Stoneham Theater. The van leaves Congregational Church at 11:30. Ticket prices are $37, and they're going to be going to Palcari's for lunch. Lunch is at your own expense at Palcari's. Another thing at the library, Nancy had mentioned some of the fantastic things going on with the health series and with Jane Blair, from Art Matters. But we have a kind of a unique presentation on Wednesday, May 1st. It's called Search for the Medusa, and it's a scientist, an MIT scientist named Charles Mazel, who was on an exhibition in 1980, a French marine exhibition, archaeological, off the banks of Africa, and they found the sunken ship or the sunken wreck of the Medusa, which was a boat that sunk in 1816, and a famous painting by an artist, trying to see where he is, was painted in the 1800s about this shipwreck, but they found it 170 years later.
Yeah, it's a very dramatic painting, and it shows people on on a raft.
Right.
After the wreck, yeah.
Theodore Géricault. Well, I should know that, Nancy, whether my French is failing me. But anyway, it's going to be at the GPL, the Gleason Public Library, sponsored by the GPL and the Council on Aging. And it should be interesting because, this is from a local scientist who lives in Bedford who actually was on the exhibition. So he'll talk about not only the finding the sink ship itself, but how the whole process evolved to go do the exploring. And also, and maybe you could help me with this because I don't know a lot about it, the Carlisle Masters Gardeners are offering free gardening classes at Center Park starting Thursday, April 25th, 9 to 11. So is that a weekly thing or is it a one-time?
It's going to be once a month from April through October.
Okay.
We have 10 slots for seniors and 10 slots for the recreation department. If you like to garden, it is an amazing opportunity to get free lessons from people who are master gardeners. It will take place right at the Center Park, and it's going to be the fourth Thursday of every month. And all you have to do is call and register with the Council on Aging, or if you're a student, call Holly and register with the rec department. So we're really excited about that. And then, David, if it's okay, I'm going to quickly talk about some of the other programs we have coming, and I do mean quickly. We have a Chelmsford Crossing lunch on April 4th, and after that, we're going to have a person from the registry come and talk about the real IDs and the difference between a real ID and a standard ID. On April 18th, we have our COA lunch, and after that, Dale Josem and John Lyons and Harvey Nosowicz, and I'm probably destroying that, is going to do some jazz tunes for us from the 60s or 70s, and Dale is a resident of Carlisle and also Miriam, our admin's husband, so we're excited about that. And then in May 2nd, we're going to have our Chelmsford Crossing lunch, and we're going to have the New Orleans Jazz Band for that, and Santo Pilara is a member of that. And
Playing the clarinet.
yes, playing the clarinet. And so, and that menu is a lobster roll, so can't do better than that. On April 2nd, we're going to have a community conversation on integrated therapies, a holistic approach to pain and symptom management. So if you've ever had pain and you'd like to find out how you can deal with it without necessarily taking standard drugs, come listen. It's free at the library. Just sign up through us. And on May 28th, we have alternative medicines. Dietary supplements, are they really safe? And I think that's something we've all wondered about. So that's also at the library at 1:30. We're going to have our men's breakfast on April 11th, our senior moments on April 8th and 22nd, which is at Fern's. Our monthly coffee will be April 3rd and May 1st, and so we're excited about that. The April one is going to be hosted by Carolyn Showett and Nancy West and Lillian and Angelo de Benedictus. So for those of you that know Carolyn, you know she's written many cookbooks, so you can't get better than that for a coffee. So David, what else do you have?
Well, as you know, Angela, we like to have people move out and about, and so we have a variety of exercise programs, some in conjunction with the rec department, or at least complementary to the offerings the rec department has. On Mondays, we do a tap class at FRS at 1:30, no experience necessary or partner required. Just notify the Council on Aging. You can start with any of our exercise programs. You can try one for free, so no obligation. Most of them cost $40 for a 10 to 12 part session. So the average is less than $4 per session. So even if you miss one, no big deal. But we're very flexible with these exercise programs. On Tuesdays, we have two classes. We have a Zumba class and a Tai Chi class. They're both at St. Irene's. The Zumba class is at 10:45 in the morning at St. Irene's, and the Tai Chi class is at 12:30 in the afternoon at St. Irene's. Any of these classes, you can call the Council on Aging and register for with us directly. The Wednesday class is a Hatha yoga class, and this is or is not the one that we do in conjunction.
It is the one we do with Holly.
With Holly, okay. So it's actually a RecCom-sponsored class, and that's at 9:30 a.m. at Benfield Farms. And there's a line dancing class in the afternoon at St. Irene's. That's really our newest offering in terms of exercise, right?
Right.
But it's pretty popular?
Very popular.
Yeah. On Thursdays, we have here at Town Hall, usually here at Town Hall, we have the fitness and cardio boost class both in the morning. The fitness class is at 9:45 and the cardio boost class is at 10:45. And boy, this room at Town Hall really gets a lot of use. I think the staff actually have, at Town Hall, have a Wednesday yoga. It is yoga, isn't
Yeah.
it?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't been it, but I know Miriam does it, Holly does it, and George Mansfield does it too. It's
He
popular.
does,
Yeah. Fridays, we have a unique program here at Town Hall, exercise program called SAMA, Senior Approach to Maintaining Agility, with a great instructor, Sarah Hanley. Actually, all of our instructors are great. Katrina Rotundi, Linda Sango, I don't know the Hatha yoga instructor directly, but I hear she's good.
She's
and
excellent.
And Sarah Hanley, who does the Sama class, Senior Approach to Maintaining Agility on Friday mornings, is wonderful too. That's really a unique class because it's a mixture of things.
Yeah, it uses martial art moves to increase your balance and your flexibility.
So we have very little time left, but very quickly I'm going to run through. I'm not as good at going quickly as Angela, but we've got our Haircut to Go program, which is right here at Town Hall. If people want an inexpensive but good haircut. The next one is on April 29th, and it's in a healed room, but please call ahead to register because there are time slots. There's an outside walking group that is happens at Center Park, or begins at Center Park at 9:30 on Thursdays. And if you're interested in that, please call Jane Anderson or Helen Young. Jane's at 978-369-9672. There is currently, during the winter month, there's a walking group at the Carlisle School Gym Monday through Friday, 6:45 a.m. to 7:30. Please call the facilities department if you're interested in that because they have to know
To open the
to
school.
open the school door. So you call the night before, and there's a small group that does that. Did you cover these other issues? The blood pressure clinics. I should mention that a lot of the coffees and the lunches that Angela mentioned that we do come with, or I should say include, a free blood pressure clinic. And they're sponsored by various different organizations
Right.
that we're grateful for. Do you have anything else to cover? I wanted to say one more thing, but...
Okay, quickly,
yeah.
we do have 2 knitting groups. We have a meditation group every Monday at 1 o'clock at Benfield Farm. We have a book group. We have a social hour once a month where you can come and have some refreshments and meet new and old neighbors and just socialize. We have a Reiki practitioner who will do Reiki for 8 people a month, and she's phenomenal. So we're booking her for April 22nd. So I think those are the highlights, and
So basically, not very much going on here in Carlisle. I wanted to mention one thing about the LIFT program that we touched upon in the beginning of the program, if I have 30 seconds left, and that I didn't mention who is eligible for the discounted rides. Currently, our committee decided to make it people age 60 and above in Carlisle and people who are age 18 and above who have a transportation challenge. So essentially, if you're an adult of any age and you have a transportation challenge, be it because you have a disability or because you have a temporary issue, like you broke your leg or you had eye surgery or whatever it is that's preventing you from being able to drive all the time or even driving at night, we don't have a high bar threshold that we're trying to get people to cross to try the LIFT program. As a matter of fact, we're even thinking about lowering the age from 60 to 50 if there's not enough uptake. But we'll see where that goes. I just wanted to mention, I don't want people to think, oh, I'm not eligible for that. If you're not sure, call us because you very well could be eligible for the discount.
And I just want to quickly remind people that if you need medical equipment, no matter how old you are, we loan them out for free, and we have a volunteer who will deliver to your house whatever you need, as long as we have it in our loan program. And again, the Friends help pay for the medical equipment when we need it. So we'd just like to thank you very much, Frank, for hosting us today.
My pleasure. And let me thank the staff of the Carlisle Council on Aging. You read this newsletter, the Carlisle Connection. It is amazing what you all put together and provide in terms of services and programs for the seniors of Carlisle. It really is, so congratulations.